Hello everyone, my name is Exavier Stimson. This is the Renaissance High School official IB podcast. I'm one of the students that's helping out with this, including AJ Garcia, Jeffrey Morales, Carson Utzler, and Madison Kelly. Our goal here today, or well just in general, is to help IB students across the country and in our own school or community figure out what they can take away from IB, what they can learn, and I guess how they can live the life of an IB student. With me today is Yushin Chang and Kavya
Bansal.
Ansel. And today our question is going to be, what is IB? IB is a foundation that allows you to seek a higher education or seek a further career in the workforce. There's the IBDP program, and then there's the IBCP program. The IBDP program I'll be referring to as DP, and the IBCP program I'll be referring to as CP. The CP program is the career program, which is referred to as you're going to be learning technical skills and career-related skills where you'll learn the knowledge that you need to be in the workforce either during school or after high school. The DP program is a program which you're able to learn a higher education or go for a higher education, and you're also able to kind of realize what education really is and the collaboration between maybe an English class or a chem class or a math class and the English class, and kind of how it's all interlinked and all connected, and seek out education in other places as well. So starting out, Kavya, I know you're part of the IBCP program. Can you give me a little bit of a personal connection, maybe what you've been doing with your life before entering IB?
Yeah, I don't know. IB is really kind of relevant to me because I lived internationally. I lived in Japan and Taiwan for a total of 7 years, and that was really cool. So like having that international connection continue throughout high school, even while I'm here in America, is really cool. And I'm in the IBCP engineering program. So I've been interested in engineering since like middle school. I'm in robotics. That's really fun. So yeah.
Of course, yeah. And how does living in multiple countries kind of relate to what you've felt in the IB program? Like how it can relate to, I guess, internationally, like maybe a direct correlation or just something that you kind of took away from that?
I think the thing about IB is it allows you to combine so many different perspectives because you're not just being taught something one way. And that's something that I've learned from international experience as well, is so many different people have different ways of thinking, ways of living, and like IB is such a like wholesome program to like help you understand what it's like to think from different perspectives, and really that interconnectedness between classes kind of mirrors the interconnectedness we kind of need in the world to collaborate across countries and across disciplines.
Of course, that's so great. Maybe can you give me maybe like a little description on like your course load, or like maybe classes that you've taken over the years that maybe you've struggled with or that kind of left a soft spot in you?
I finished IB Math Analysis and Approaches last year, in my junior year, and I've been taking IB Language and Literature as well for my junior and senior year, and I tested in math. I'm testing in English as well. I'm also testing in HL Chemistry. I think that's been the most challenging course of my high school career, but it's really challenged me to think in different ways, explore problems in different ways, and really learn how to study and be efficient with schoolwork.
Of course.
Yeah.
And you're in the engineering program, is that correct?
I am, yes.
Maybe can you give me a little bit of a definition of what engineering means to you?
Sure, yeah. I think for me, engineering is all about solving problems. Like, that's a little vague, but basically what it is applying science to solve problems. Like there's pure science disciplines like physics, chemistry, biology, etc. The engineering is like the real application of them. Like how can you use that to make the world a better place?
Of course. And are you planning on getting your CP in which engineering field?
Renaissance just does an overall engineering CP certificate, I think. I'm most interested in mechanical engineering.
Of course. And does CP offer any kind of other bonuses besides just that certificate that you may know of?
I know in other CP programs such as medical, you get access to internships and things like that. But for engineering, I think it's really all about the project-based learning. So I was in computer integrated manufacturing last year. That was a really project-based class where I got to learn about how to use CNC machines, things like that. And in aerospace right now, I'm working on making a glider. I'm really excited for my engineering design and development project next semester, which is supposed to be really open-ended. So I think that's the main benefit of engineering CP, is you get to learn through doing, through the hands-on.
Of course, that's great. And maybe my last question for right now for CP is there anything that like you need to do, like a test or like a overview at the end of like high school that you need to get your certification?
I don't believe so. I don't actually know a lot about it right now because I'm not there yet, to be honest, but I'm pretty sure it's just that project that you do at the end of EDD. So,
of course.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how most students are right now, and that's kind of the goal of the podcast anyways, to kind of figure out where we're going with this.
Can I also say one thing about CP?
Of course.
Think CP overall is just like a great opportunity for you to explore a career path you're interested in without that high commitment that needs to be there when you're in college and majoring in something and spending thousands of dollars. So in high school, you can explore these career paths, make sure you're built for that career path and make sure it's the right fit for you without that huge expense that comes with college. And in these pathways, as long as you have a general idea of what you want to do, you can narrow in so much.
I think that is so accurate. I've had that experience, especially being in aerospace engineering right now. I know I love that like design aspect of it and the building of things, but I kind of understand now that like aerospace might not be necessarily what appeals to me. I've considered majoring in aerospace engineering, but I think I know now that I don't specifically want to narrow it into that right now, and mechanical engineering is what's for me. So CP's really helped me find that.
That's great.
Yeah.
And Yushin, for you, for IBDP, can you give me maybe like a little story about like what your backstory is before entering the IB program?
Yeah, so I've always been very academically driven, and I feel like as a freshman and a sophomore, I've like been around so many DP students. I just really saw the community that they built through IBDP and the collaboration that is there through all these projects like CAS, which is creativity, activity, and service project that just helps give back to the community. And I just really like the challenge of it. I think as students, we won't ever know our true potential if we don't push ourselves to the limit and see where the failing point is and try to go above that. And I feel like for me, IBDP was the thing that would help me test my limit. So I chose DP because I'm not sure where I want to go with my career, and through all my extracurriculars, it's always been an exploration of what I want to do in my future, and I feel like DP is very much an extension of that, where I can explore what I want to do academically through IBDP instead of being in a certain career track.
Yeah, so you like the ability to kind of test things out without having maybe a commitment to a certain career path, so you can kind of see what you like.
Yeah, and I would also say most of it is the challenge portion of it.
So is IB is IBDP a more challenging route for?
I would say so. I would say IBDP is harder than CP just because of. So IBCP, they need to take 3 IB courses, and for IBDP, we take 6. So we take double the amount of IB courses. So that's why I would say it's harder for us, and we take more HL classes. So HL means higher level, and they require more classroom hours than SL, which stands for standard level. And with CP, there's no requirement on how many HL courses you have to take and how many SL hours you have to take. Compared to DP, where you have to take at least 3, that means more credit hours and more hours in class and more hours outside. So I would say it's harder.
Definitely harder. And is there any way that like you could give me a kind of what your course load was like, or maybe classes that you've taken throughout your years, maybe as a junior or a senior, that maybe challenged you or kind of left like a softer spot on you that kind of pushed you to a higher level?
Yeah, for sure. So like Kavya, I also tested in math last year. So that was definitely interesting, testing as a junior instead of a senior. And then this year I'm taking HL English, HL Visual Arts, HL Chem, HL English, and then SL Spanish. And those are my classes. I also took Anthro HL. Oh, I'm taking Geography HL as well. Don't want to forget that. But I took 2 social study HLs, one just kind of because I was interested in it. And the class I found the hardest is definitely Chem HL, like Kavya kind of mentioned. But I would also say Visual Arts is very, very hard, just because of all the hours you need to put into it to succeed. And I think globally it has the lowest percentage of 7s ever. So it's very difficult to test well in IB Visual Arts. Compared to chemistry, it's just a challenge of remembering everything from the 2 years, and it's challenged me a lot. I've cried a lot of tears over IB HL Chem, so yeah.
And so is this IB, is over the 2 years, are these tests a culmination of all those 2 years, or is it just a kind of what you've been learning recently?
So HL globally is a culmination of the 2 years. Some IB schools, you take SL in 1 year and you test at the end of that 1 year. At Renaissance, we do it in 2. So for us at Renaissance, it's a culmination of 2 years, but I know globally it's not the same.
All right. And moving on, I know that IBCP takes a different selection of courses as opposed to IBDP. Would PPS or personal professional skills, could you kind of give me like a quick overview of what you learned in that class in the IBCP program?
Yeah, so for personal and professional skills, there's 6 principles that I can't really remember right now, to be honest.
Okay.
But it's about learning how to be a professional and how to be an effective person in the workplace. So it's about learning how to communicate, how to be efficient with your time, and going really deep into understanding what it means to be a person in your career and what it means to do good through that position. So right now in PPS we are working on our reflective project, which is a 3,000-word paper about a ethical dilemma in our field. So mine is engineering, so I'm talking about indigenous land rights versus engineering projects.
That's actually great. Is there any way that you could give me kind of is that like a replacement for your senior project, or maybe something that you did in junior year that like kind of helped you out in the real world from PPS?
Yeah, at Renaissance, the RP is our senior project. And I think in PPS junior year, we read this one book. It was about a girl who was from this tribe called the Hmong. They're a group of people who originate from, I believe it was Laos. And this young girl had epilepsy, and doctors were having difficulty treating her because her parents were non-compliant because of their religion and their beliefs about what the medicine would do to her daughter's spirit, etc. I think it was a really eye-opening book for me about how vastly different cultures across the world honestly are, and how important it is to understand, because the girl ended up dying, and it was largely because of miscommunication.
All right, and maybe how did that book relate to you and your experience in living in other countries?
It's honestly difficult to relate it to living in other countries, because these people were they were refugees, and they were from a very isolated indigenous tribe, but it's kind of living in Taiwan and Japan has allowed me to meet a variety of so many different kinds of people, and I think the kind of cultural differences mirror like what I've learned about those other cultures, because people see things completely differently, and it's hard to understand that sometimes when you haven't been immersed in other cultures. But it's not as drastic from it wasn't as drastic in my experience, because I went to international schools and things like that. But it kind of it's eye-opening for me, even though I've had that experience.
So would you believe that maybe somebody like me or others that might not have lived in other countries, if they were to go there, they might have a higher chance for like miscommunication, that maybe IB could help like clear up, maybe not the miscommunication of like language barriers, but maybe the miscommunication of like cultures?
Definitely. There are a lot of customs in other cultures that Americans don't have, so there would be some things that Americans could say or do that they would completely misinterpret. In Japan, most people communicate not with their words, but with kind of more like intention and expressions and like reading between the lines. So you have to be a lot more engaged in the conversation to understand what they're actually kind of saying, and it's easy to accidentally offend someone, honestly, because they kind of read between the lines. There are a lot of customs there too that are taboo, such as in Taiwan, Japan. I think most Asian countries, crossing your chopsticks on your plate, it like seems harmless in America, but like that's actually like placing a curse on the person who's sitting across the table from you, I believe, because it's some sort of taboo. There's all these little things that people don't understand about other countries that can lead to so many miscommunications.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you think that maybe this miscommunication could be resolved through like maybe this PPS of learning how to be a professional like person in this workforce? Maybe if you have somebody from a different country that's like working with you that may not understand like, you know, the American culture as much, or maybe you don't understand their culture as much. Do you think that PPS could play that like aspect into it?
Yeah, PBS really teaches you to try to understand the people around you more than you would have thought you would have tried to at a surface level. And I think if you're working with someone from a different country, it's important to research like their workplace customs and things like that. Some countries have a emphasis on seniority and respecting your elders, for example. So they could, if you're younger than them, they could take offense if you're challenging them, things like that. It's important to research these things and like kind of try to understand the person sitting across from you, because they may not be able to understand you. And so PPS really teaches you to try to kind of go in with an open mind and learn about the people around you before making judgments or before possibly saying something that could make them not like you or offend them or things like that.
Of course, that's really great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And to Yushin, in the DP program, I know you guys take TOK or Theory of Knowledge. Could you give me like kind of an overview of what you do in that class?
So in TOK, we think about how we think and why we know the things we know and how we know the things we know. And I think the course just really instills in you an ability to question the world and what's around you, and also this deep sense of curiosity.
So it's kind of different from that PPS aspect where you're kind of maybe instead of being more professional, you're kind of learning to be more adept or curious about the other people around you?
I would say those things go hand in hand, right? Because when you're in a professional setting and you want to do a good job, if you exhibit those qualities of curiosity and asking great questions, it's going to get you further in life. This recently applied to an internship I did at ESU, and during lab meetings we were talking about like all these like theoretical physics concepts like quantum mechanics. I had no idea what they were talking about. but a lot of the things I've learned from TOK are very applicable, and I was able to ask questions that helped me get involved in the conversation, actually understand what it was about, even though I have no physics knowledge. So I think TOK just really teaches you how to think.
Okay. And maybe could you give me an example of maybe a question you've heard, or if you don't remember maybe a question, maybe something that you've overviewed within the class?
Yeah, so one of the TOK prompts this year for our essay is to what extent is context necessary to understand knowledge itself, and the role context plays essentially in understanding something. And I think that is an example of a really great question from TOK.
And is TOK based on different interpretations from different people, or is it just based on the entire class trying to figure out one interpretation of that quote?
No, it's very individual based. So we have 6 questions in TOK, and everyone chooses their own question. They answer it in their own way. And obviously this is very philosophical, right? So everyone's going to think in a different way, and that's completely okay. I think it's just the process that the class teaches and not exactly the destination.
Okay. And is there maybe anything from your backstory or your past that can kind of relate to this, curiosity that you're taking from TOK, or maybe anything that could have helped you in the past?
Yeah, so I did an international exchange with the U.S. State Department the summer before my junior year, and I think that really set me up to consider the world from a more nuanced perspective, and I think that actually goes in hand with all the DP and IB classes, just a more international perspective. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. Not a lot of people get those opportunities, and so I think that is what helped me personally really fall in love with DP. It's just personal experience and being able to apply the things I learned in DP outside of class.
All right. And is there anything that can be your senior project, like how in PPS they have the RP? Is there anything that's kind of related to that in TOK?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, our TOK essay that we do is technically our senior project at Renaissance High School.
All right. And can you give me maybe a little bit more elaboration on what you do in this senior essay?
Yeah, so we pick one of the prompts, and I believe it's around, the limit I think is 3,000 words, don't quote me on that, and we have to analyze this prompt fully and really consider all the nuances of it. And I haven't looked at the rubric yet, but I believe it's not about having a right answer, it's about fully analyzing the question itself, thinking about what assumptions the question is making, thinking about what each of the words means, just really analyzing the way we think and dissecting that question.
All right. And is there any direct correlation between this curiosity that you're gaining from TOK into maybe a job outside of school, or maybe any extracurriculars?
Yeah, for sure. Kind of like what I mentioned before, I think the curiosity goes very much hand in hand with scientific research and also just research in general, because when you're trying to discover new things about the world, you obviously want to be curious and see what there is to learn about the world. And I would also say that just being a person who can ask really, really good questions is so, so powerful. People love good questions. So I think TOK definitely helps with that. But I would say it's more so the entire DP and IB program that kind of sets a good foundation for you. Obviously, having done IB DP, opportunities aren't going to be handed to you. You have to go out there and apply what you've learned. But I think IB DP gives you the tools to be able to find those opportunities.
Of course. And a little bit of change of subject, but so I know IBDP has the EE.
Oh boy, yes.
Could you give me a little bit of an elaboration on what the EE is?
So the EE is, actually it's a wonderful thing I think that the IB does. So it's a 3,000 to 4,000 word essay where you explore a topic of your choice, you come up with your own inquiry question, and you're really able to explore anything. So for me right now, my question for my EE is, to what extent did the CIA covert funding of Mujahideen fighters in Afghanistan cause the rise in Islamic extremism? And that was a really interesting topic for me to explore, and it's something that I had read a lot about, and I wanted to apply my knowledge. So I just think the E is an excellent opportunity for students to apply what they're passionate about and what they know already into a paper that gives them extra points towards their DP diploma.
Okay. And could you give me maybe like, when is this due and when did you maybe start it?
Yeah, so this is due the Tuesday after Thanksgiving break is over, so end of November, and we started this junior year around the springtime, I would say. We had our first meeting like late April, early May.
All right. And is there any other things in IB that you do kind of extra, maybe like your CAS project or just something following that?
Yeah, I think both of us do. So in CP they have SL and LD, which is kind of like our version of CAS hours. So for CAS we have to do 50 hours of creativity, activity, and service, 50 hours of each, and then do reflections for all of those, and then the culmination of that is 10 hours of like a project, which we'll give back to the community. And then for you guys, I think it's...
Yeah, for SL, it stands for service learning, and it's kind of our version of the service part of CAS, but we are really encouraged to tie it back to our careers. So you do 50 hours of service and you write reflections on them, tying them back to what you've learned from the process, what you've learned about your career and what skills you think you could use from this in the future. We also have LD, language development, so DP is required to take a language class as part of their 6 core classes, but we're instead given the option to do a self-study as well. So LD can either be you take a class and then you write reflections on the classwork that you've done and how that has helped you learn the language, how that's applicable to your career in the future, or you could self-study like I've actually been doing, and you have to find a way to do 50 independent hours of language development, and you write reflections on those as well.
That's great. And for proof for these, is it just images, videos?
Yeah, there's all sorts of things. You can have images from Duolingo. I put in screenshots of notes I've taken from instructional videos. It can also be videos of you speaking the language, things like that. Evidence, basically, that you've completed whatever activity it is. It can be in any form.
Yeah, I would say if you're interested in a language that isn't offered at Renaissance, go CP, because it's so cool that I think you can kind of choose your own path and explore a language that really appeals to you that you think will have a positive impact on your career.
All right, that's great. And I know for specific classes, like maybe an IA, like math.
International. Oh wait,
It's the internal assessment.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is we have one of those in all of our classes. I know for chemistry, what we do is we prepare our own lab experiment. We create an inquiry question to investigate. We had 2 full days where we were just working in the lab on our experiment, and I'm pretty sure it's about the same for biology as well. And you get to investigate any topic that you would like, which is honestly really cool to me. I love science, I love chemistry, so that was one fun IA to do. And you write a research paper about that at the end, analyzing your data. Math, you do an IA as well, where you get to apply a math concept to the real world. So since I'm into engineering and physics, I did mine about projectile motion and air resistance and how calculus is involved with that. For English, we have our IO, the independent oral, where we have 10 minutes of speaking about some text we read in class and how it connects to a non-literary work. And you come up with an inquiry question for that as well, and it's the same thing for math. So IB, like Yushin said, really teaches you how to ask good questions.
Yeah, and also independence, I would say, because a lot of those are all of them are student-led, and you won't really get very far if you don't have initiative and know what you want to do. But also, like, the plus side of that is that you get to explore what you're interested in. So even if, like, you're interested in something, like, because I'm interested in nuclear power, and so in my math, I was able to apply nuclear in my math IA, even though nuclear isn't very math, I was able to apply it. And then you could do the same for any other IA. You just get to kind of choose your own adventure, I would say.
Yeah.
But then IAs kind of look different in other classes as well. For anthro and geo, we have to do field work. So we go out, we collect data, we write a paper. For our visual art, we have like an exhibition of 9 to 11 pieces. Am I missing any classes? Oh, Spanish. For the languages, you do kind of like an oral exam. So you have a conversation about like an image, and you analyze the image, do cultural connection descriptions, inferences, all in Spanish, and then you have a conversation about a general topic. And then the teacher also asks you questions. So it's very much an oral assessment that kind of covers all aspects of language.
That's
yeah,
great.
and neither of us are in music, but don't quote me on this, but I believe they have to write their own piece and perform it.
I think so too, yeah.
For their IA.
Okay. And this is maybe a question for both of you guys, but is there any kind of way that you guys can give an example of how maybe two classes were related to each other in IB, like maybe math and English, or, you know, any other classes?
I have a fun one. So for our Spanish EOIs, which is just like the picture portion of our like our oral assessment, we look at a picture and we analyze how like the cultural connections. And so when I was taking anthro for fun, we read this book called Fresh Fruit, Broken Bodies, about like migrant workers. And I found a picture for our Spanish unit that was about like the working world, and I used a picture from that book as one of my pictures, and I analyzed it and made cultural connections. So that was a really fun connection for me.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah. There have been so many small connections that are, I can't think of off the top of my head right now. There's been a lot of connections between math and chemistry. But that's kind of intrinsic because chemistry is very grounded in math.
But then also a lot of the problems that are posed in chemistry are discussed also in geography. So in geography, we talk about pollution, we talk about like water usage, energy, and those are things that we also talk about in chemistry when we analyze like organic compounds, and a lot of those organic compounds are also pollutants and like also involved. So.
Yeah, I did take anthro for all of junior year last year, so I remember there were a lot of connections between that and the issues we were discussing in language and literature, because we tie everything we learn from our texts into real-world problems and issues. I remember we were talking about the military-industrial complex. All that sort of stuff comes up in anthro all the time.
Yeah, so I think unlike AA, where you just take one class and then you don't have to think about it again, IB, you connect. Everything is so connected where you don't really get an opportunity to forget about it.
Yeah.
And keep them independent.
And maybe to bring it all back, is there maybe, if you guys could go back in time, is there one piece of knowledge you might take with you that could help you?
You go first.
Okay. I think I figured out now, finally, how to be more efficient and organized with my work. But if I could go back and tell my junior self, you have to stop turning in late assignments and you have to set aside time for yourself to do LD because you're going to forget to do it all of the time. You know, I think it would just be those little, like, organizational things that make such a huge difference when you're trying to keep up with so many independent things. And you have to be so self-motivated to make all of those things happen, all of the independent study and everything. So, yeah.
And anything from you, Yushin?
I would say don't make life hard on yourself, especially when it comes to learning. Like I've discovered recently that like, especially for like language learning, if I just like watch TV shows in Spanish, you know, because like in my downtime I obviously, like everyone else, I watch TV, so just flipping the language can help a lot in your language learning. Like little things like that help you along in your learning. When I wake up every morning, and I've always done this, I always listen to the Wall Street Journal and New York Times in that order, and that's also helped a lot with geo and anthro. And I think I need to start doing the same for chemistry. And just like wake up and listen to like a science podcast, or just go to bed reading like a scientific journal. So I think just incorporating learning in little aspects of your life can go so far, because it becomes a habit where you're just in that learning mindset for every subject. I would also say choose your courses very, very wisely. For all those future IB students out there, you don't have to take Group 6. You don't have to take visual arts or music. You can take geo and anthro, which for me, I think that depends on who the person is, but for me, that would have been a lot easier than taking visual arts. You could also do bio and chem instead of visual arts. So I think if I go back in time, I would tell myself, take geo, take anthro, don't take visual arts. I love you, Mrs. Dobson. But, so I think that's one thing I would change.
I think that's the nice thing about CP is you're only required to take 2 IB classes, so you can make it as hard as you want. So I decided to take stuff that was interesting to me,
Lucky goose.
Yeah, so you can make CP as hard as you want it to be, but DP, you're set in that 6 classes, but it's nice that you have that option of taking.
Can I also say that I've seen people get their IB DP diploma while doing the bare minimum, like an hour of homework, like maybe like every 2 days. Like I think IB, however much you get out of it, is how much you put in. So like I think everyone makes IB sound like this huge, giant, like scary monster, but I promise you, like all the teachers break it down for you into very digestible pieces, and however much personally you get out of the program is how much you put in. So if you want to just get your diploma and do nothing else, you can do that, and you'll have plenty of time left over for everything else.
All right. And kind of to end this all off, I wanted to thank you guys for being here.
Yeah,
and I want to thank especially Mr. Hyde and the West Data School District for allowing us to, be a part of this. And I guess this is the Renaissance official podcast. I guess we'll see you next time.